I'd love to have him back. I think it was a mistake to throw him out. Look, it's not a question of liking Russia or not liking Russia. It was the G8. And you know, I said, what are you doing? You guys, all you talk about is Russia, and they should be sitting at the table. I think Putin would love to be back. Obama and a couple of other people made a mistake and they got Russia out. It's very possible that if that was the G8, you wouldn't have had the problem with Ukraine. And if I was president, you definitely wouldn't have had the problem with Ukraine. Russia would have never attacked Ukraine. But you ask a very good question, the G8. It used to be the G8 and then these people threw them out. And I was arguing with Trudeau and with numerous of the people. Actually, Prime Minister Abe, a great man from Japan, agreed with me 100%, and some of the others did too. But I got there, it was the G7, as you know. They had already been terminated. I think it would have been very helpful, and it still would be helpful to have Russia be a part of that mix. And I think if they were, I don't think you would have had the problem that you have right now.
President dressed up the defense secretary he handpicked off the cast of the Fox and Friends weekend show, put him in a bright blue suit, and sent him to Europe, where he volunteered, unasked, that Ukraine can't be expected to keep all of its own territory. He said that would be, quote, unrealistic. It would be, quote, unrealistic to not let Russia take parts of Ukraine. He then volunteered, unasked, that Ukraine will not be allowed to join NATO. Now we've got pro-Trump Republican senators saying, yeah, not just Ukraine won't be allowed in NATO, we ought to get out of NATO too, which of course would collapse NATO. Who would that most benefit? For whom would that be really, really good news? Donald Trump says, let's let Russia back into the G7. Donald Trump is reportedly preparing right now for his own big in-person summit with Vladimir Putin. Donald Trump already started high-level meetings between the Russian and U.S. governments, including an inexplicable 3.5-hour meeting specifically between the president's real estate friend and Vladimir Putin himself. Steve Witkoff came back from that meeting and how'd that go? Went pretty well for someone. Headline, parroting Putin and Trump, Witkoff says Russia was provoked into invading Ukraine. Headline, Trump envoy can't name a single concession Russia will make in peace deal.
Donald Trump just didn't cross the line of presidential decency. He strapped it to a rocket, launched it into the sun, and pissed on the ashes from the Oval Office itself. Moments after Rachel Maddow surgically dismantled his Kremlin cosplay in front of millions, Trump didn't just lose his cool, he went full nuclear meltdown. Not a tantrum, not a bad day. We're talking authoritarian rage theater, screaming threats, venomous personal attacks, and, according to multiple reports, straight-up intimidation aimed at Maddow herself. This isn't a war on the media anymore. This is a bloated mob boss in a red tie making a public hit call except the crime family is the White House. The aftermath? Ugly. Maddow, a journalist with a titanium backbone, was pulled from the air, visibly shaken after Trump's Oval Office temper detonation. That's the price of telling the truth when the government is run by a man who thinks the First Amendment is optional. We warned you. Authoritarianism doesn't always march in jackboots. Sometimes it waddles in with a spray tan, a golf handicap, and a phone full of unhinged 3-ampere M rants. Now it's hijacked the presidency to muzzle the press. Well, tough luck, Donnie. We're not whispering, we're not bowing, and we're damn sure not letting the tangerine tyrant bully the Fourth Estate into silence. So smash that like button, blast this across every inbox, and feed and light the comment section on fire. Because if Trump wanted Maddow silenced, we're about to turn her voice into a political earthquake measured on the Richter scale.
What does it seem like is going on here? Imagine if a foreign adversary, imagine if the Putin government somehow could just do a thought experiment. Imagine they could somehow exert control or influence over the government of the United States. What do you think the Putin government would have the U.S. government do if he could control it? What kind of headlines would you expect to see about the operations of our government under that kind of a scenario. And what would you expect the news out of the Oval Office and the White House to look like on a day like today? At the start of this made-for-TV debacle at the White House today, where the president and Vice President J.D. Vance screamed at our ally Vladimir Zelensky and berated him with Russian government talking points. When this happened today in Washington, there's a couple things that stuck out to me. First of all, at the very start of this photo op, they had all the press in the room, Trump was asked right at the outset when he last spoke with Vladimir Putin. He said, quote, a couple of days ago, which was news because the U.S. government had said nothing about Donald Trump speaking with Vladimir Putin a couple of days ago. So that's new. He used to say, I'm not allowed to talk about that. Now he's admitting that he talks to Putin all the time, even when the U.S. government doesn't release any information about those calls like they do with all other foreign leaders. Second was the truly bizarre revelation that Russian state-controlled media, for some reason, was in the Oval Office today when this scene happened with Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, to be clear, the Trump White House will not allow the Associated Press or Reuters into the Oval Office to cover White House events anymore, but somehow TASS media, Kremlin-controlled Russian state media, somehow made their way into the Oval Office for this berating of the Ukrainian president today, and Russian state media was in the Oval Office somehow live streaming from the event. Afterwards, look at this bizarre statement from the White House attributed to an unnamed White House official. Quote, TASS was not on the approved list of media for today's pool. As soon as it came to the attention of press office staff that he was in the Oval, he was escorted out by the press secretary. He is not on the approved list for the press conference. It's not on the approved list. I have no idea how he got in there. To live stream for Kremlin-controlled state media the president and vice president of the United States screaming at Ukraine's president and berating him with Russian talking points. We don't know how the Kremlin guy got in here. It was weird. He just wandered in. I mean, people do. It's a free country. People do just wander into the Oval Office. A very radical thing is happening in our country. It is not only radical in the sense that it is a large directional change, right? Switching sides in a war, now standing against our allies of the last 80 years, now siding with Russia instead. I mean, no longer siding with the free world, now siding with the authoritarian governments of the world. Like, it's not just radical in that it is a 180-degree directional change. It is also radical in the sense that it is really radically unpopular with the American people. I mean, you can see that in the polling. Quinnipiac poll this month. Should the U.S. trust Vladimir Putin? Yes, 9%. No, 81%. Here's another one, the Economist YouGov poll out this month. Do you have a favorable or unfavorable view of Vladimir Putin? The American public say favorable 11%, unfavorable 78%. The American people are not clamoring for us to ally ourselves with Vladimir Putin, right? You can see it very clearly in the polling. And it begs the question, well, okay, who wants this? Who voted for this? Why are we doing this? If the American people don't want this, why are we doing it? Who says we should do this? Who's making us do this? And why? And for whose benefit? You can see the same dynamic in the bewildered and outraged questions that Americans are asking their Republican members of Congress at these town halls, which Republicans are now realizing they better not do any more of. They're asking their Republican senators and their Republican members of Congress, what the heck is going on? What is going on here? But let's be clear. I mean, what's going on here is pretty obvious at this point. Because this is all really good news for somebody. It's not the American people for whom it's good. It's not our allies for whom it's good. And this is nothing that anyone campaigned on, and it is nothing that anyone has any political mandate for at all. And so why are we doing it? And what are we going to do about it? That's what we have to decide. And that's next.
Donald Trump isn't some outsider shaking up the system. He's a rotting billboard for American humiliation, stuffed into a suit that looks like it lost a fight with a clearance rack. This isn't a politician who went rogue. This is a lifelong con man who broke into the White House, changed the locks, and redecorated it as a mobster's panic room. The Oval Office? It's not the seat of democracy anymore. It's a crime scene where truth gets whacked in broad daylight. Trump's not just a wannabe strongman. He's a two-bit tin pot dictator in a ketchup-stained red tie playing lapdog to Vladimir Putin, like a washed-up Bond villain with unresolved daddy trauma. He threatens journalists in back rooms, kicks American press out while spoon-feeding Kremlin state television, and grins like it's all just another episode of Who Wants to Be an Autocrat. And the kicker? He doesn't even hide it. He parades his corruption like a beauty pageant sash, desperate to prove he's untouchable when really he's just a coward in drag as a dictator, terrified of a mirror. America first? Please. It's always been Trump first, and everyone else can get in line or get crushed. That's why he treats every institution like his personal chew toy. That's why he dodges indictments like he's playing whack-a-mole with the Constitution. That's why he sicks his frothing fan club on judges, reporters, whistleblowers, and anyone who doesn't genuflect before his gold-plated toilet. His lies don't just bend the truth. They drown it in raw sewage and pump it straight into the public square. And every time he's cornered, he plays the same busted record. Deep state, witch hunt. Louder than a toddler on a triple espresso. That's not leadership. That's fascism in dollar store cosplay. Trump doesn't care about your family, your future, or your freedoms. He's got two priorities: revenge and ratings. He wants to rewrite history with himself as the action hero and bulldoze every check, balance, and shred of democracy to get there. This isn't left versus right anymore. This is reality versus lunacy. This is democracy versus rot. So if you're sick of being gaslit by a bloated egomaniac with a grievance spreadsheet and a fetish for chaos, get loud like this. Share it. Flood the comments. If Trump wants silence, let's hand him the deafening roar of a nation that refuses to kneel. We're not whispering. We're not moving on. We are the firewall, and he's the arsonist with the match standing in our house.